Hello everyone and welcome back to the Hearthstone Global Games. We have plenty more matches coming up for you guys right now. I'm Raven and joining me for this one is going to be Lorinda. I had to split them up because it looked like they were having too much fun for my liking.
That
so
sounds like jealous talk there. You've had him long enough.
What are you talking about? What are you talking about? It's just for the good of the show, Lorinda, of course. We've got our next match coming up now, and it is going to be Belarus versus Czech Republic. And Belarus, one of the interesting teams because they haven't actually played yet. We're on week 4 and they've not played a match, and that's down to just scheduling. It's purely because, again, as we mentioned earlier, that we want to make sure the teams are playing at a reasonable time for themselves, right, in terms of time zones.
So that people can actually get to watch what's going on.
Exactly. So these matches are going on pretty much across the world, and when one side of the world is playing the other, then it makes it a little bit difficult just to get a time both these teams can play. But yeah, Belarus are going to go up. We've not seen anything of them so far in the global games, so I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what they're going to bring to the table. But they do have their work cut out for them as we check out the team's rosters themselves. They're going to be going up against Czech Republic with Stan, Sivka, Yara, Czech Cloud, and Pekrovac leading the charge there for Czech Republic. This team we've seen do very, very well indeed at a 2-0 score so far. And for Belarus, there's going to be Twist, and then I'm going to struggle with these names. I'm not going to lie. Mushko, I'm going to choose to pretend that F and Z is silent. No Name, which is easy enough to remember, and Kato Shekler. So, Belarus team not heard too much about in general for the whole squad. Twist, we do know a tiny bit about.
Yeah, Twist actually qualified for the top 8 at one of the championship events, but couldn't go.
Yep.
So I don't know if he got the golden celebration card back or not, but he should have. He is somebody that we know a bit about. He went 6-1 in his qualifier. Belarus has 11,000 lakes, by the way, as we see there. The beautiful country.
Do you know the size that requires a pool of water to be called a lake?
Big.
Okay,
Big.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
It's the blue-eyed country because of all of the lakes and rivers.
Okay,
Twist.
More random facts with Lorinda. I feel like this should be a part of the show now.
Well, random facts with Lorinda. That's TJ's job, right? I don't want to gimmick and fringe on this
one.
That's true. But beautiful-looking countries yet again.
Yeah, but we can see how the teams are going to be composed here as they are going to be going in with these classes here. We can see it is, again, just a team best of 5. Each player picks 2 classes, then can select 1 to play a best of 1 versus the player opposite them. The first team to 3 wins collectively does win the series. There is a chance an ace game to be played, which will be game number 5, which means one of the players can repeat play, but they cannot repeat the class they played beforehand as well. And it looks like Twist is actually playing twice, so one of the players will not be able to make it. They would have given them heads up as well, so it should be okay. It's either that or a potential graphical error, but I think Twist will be playing twice.
Yeah.
So it's going to kick off with Czech Cloud versus No Name. There's Paladin and Mage versus Rogue or Shaman, and very interesting to me as well because Paladin and Mage, I feel like 2 of the strongest classes at the moment. Feels weird to put them next to each other.
I was thinking the same way as you see the other side. There's Rogue and Shaman. They're both classes you end up having to play one of at some point. So put them together, play one of them, and get rid of the other one because you don't really want to play both. They're kind of middling classes. But yeah, Paladin and Mage, we see a lot of teams playing both of those, so one of those will not be played at all for Belarus.
Yeah, well, we see it's going to come out now. It's going to be the Mage versus the Shaman from Czech Cloud there. And the thing about Rogue and Shaman as a pairing is that they're both very different, right? Depending on how the Shaman's built, of course, but Shaman's potentially very value-based. We've seen a lot of Jade Elemental Shaman. So, we've seen that combo of like late-game control deck, whereas Rogue can be Quest Rogue, which, you and Saul have just seen a good chunk of, or Miracle, and both those decks are still, even Miracle is a fairly aggressive deck to a large extent, even though it can go into the late game, but not really a full control deck. I expect to see the actual Discover Mage from No Name to be picked. We've seen so much Discover Mage today and in general on ladder in other tournaments as well, but we have seen a Freeze Mage today.
Yeah, the Freeze Mage lost to the Discover Mage. I'm sure you're dying to mention that as well.
Well, it was always going to happen.
Raven, of course, guys, has deserted Rexar.
I've not. We're just seeing other classes, okay? We're just seeing other classes. It's fine. We've both agreed to it. It's not a problem at all. You can see the teams getting ready there, and it's going to be Czech Cloud. I think that was just Prokovac leaving the room for a second, maybe just grabbing some refreshments to get comfortable for this series, and then No Name and his companions in Belarus, and there's a nice hi mom sign in the background. So, giving a shout out to the potential parents. And yeah, just to remind you guys, although we saw a sort of 2-on-2 scene, it is actually the full team versus the full team through every single game, with the player and No Name for Belarus and Czech Cloud for Czech Republic. And they're the ones piloting the decks, but it is full team communication is allowed. They can be in the same room or on voice comms. Doesn't matter. Their full communication is a go.
Yeah, Czech Cloud piloting this first one, a huge streamer over there in the Czech Republic, of course. And who's piloting for Belarus? I actually
No Name.
blank. No Name is
yeah, the easiest one.
The easiest one. He hasn't got a name. That's why I couldn't remember who it was.
Oh, okay.
That's my excuse.
I think that was a purposeful thing. He couldn't think of a name, so he just went for No Name.
Probably.
I think it's something.
It's either ironic or it's just like, no name.
Yeah. I think it's. I'm sure, like, if Blizzard change your name for whatever reason or your account name, it goes to like Blizzard player something or Blizz player.
Is that what happens? You said it with a number.
So, yeah.
It's become a number in the Blizzard network.
Yeah. It's kind of great. I see him on ladder. I was like, is that a name someone's picked? I was like, oh no, I think this is like a default thing if you don't fill in a new name fast enough. So
there's quite a few like random names like Shiny
Lorinda.
Pants and Lorinda, and
with a 0.
I've never seen another Raven anywhere ever, of course.
Yeah, Raven, a very uncommon name, very easy to get on the internet for any accounts that you need. It's not like I have to think of 18 different variations to be able to get an account name. But less about us and more about these players. It looks like they are getting ready to go into the first game, and I'm very excited to see what this Shaman is. I always am very interested as to what different variations we're going to see. Czech Cloud going in for Czech Republic on the Shaman is the Maelstrom, Jade Lightning, and a thing from below, so very, very likely to be the Jade Elemental, although we don't see any Elementals yet. And then No Name looks like it's going to be potentially a Tempo Mage here with that Water Elemental.
Yeah, Water Elemental, a sign that this may not be Discover Mage at all, although several of the other cards are in that deck. It could just be looking for... Yeah, we'll call it Tempo Mage. It used to be called just Mana Worm Mage, I think, where you just try...
Did it, Lorinda? Is that a thing? Did anyone call it Mana Worm Mage?
I did.
Did anyone relevant call it Mana Worm Mage?
Not that I know of.
Ah, there we go.
But I'm hoping to become relevant by calling it now.
Okay.
But no, Tempo Mage is the deck that will not die. Well, Freeze Mage is the deck that will not die, but Mana Mage, sort of, Tempo Mage is second in that line.
Yeah, well, Tempo Mage has actually been. This is gonna frustrate me now because I can't remember who it was, but someone out there, a pro player, I believe, has actually done a very good recent run with Tempo Mage.
APX Void, most likely.
Was it APX? Okay.
He's played a lot of Tempo Mage. He refuses to let the archetype go under. And yeah. I don't know much about his list, but APX Void was playing a lot of Tempo Mage on ladder recently in top 100.
Yeah, and if you think about Tempo Mage in general, it's lost Flame Waker from back in the day. Like one of the true power cards from the old versions of that archetype. But in general now, this is just like almost aggro mage at this point, because almost all the time the glyphs that you can see one of them in hand, it can just be used to get more aggressive cards to finish off the game, because that's what now this list wants to do. The Water Elementals are going to really help just create a sticky minion and try and really push for that extra damage and make it a little bit awkward for Czech Cloud and Team Czech Republic to deal with.
Of course, as well, the Czech Republic may not realise what they're up against for quite a while, because many of these cards are going to be the same from both decks, and therefore they're going to play against the Discover Mage, which means they may think they've got a little bit more time available to them than they have to set up their defences. So we may see them, as it happens, the curve's going to work out that it's a fairly easy series of turns anyway, but they could have reached a decision point where they could choose to go a bit more value and think they have a bit more time, but actually this is going to start to hit them very soon.
Well, maybe not now, because suddenly there's an Ice Block in hand, and there's an Arcanologist in the deck for a start, so maybe this is just Discover Mage with a Water Elemental in it, because the Water Elemental is one of those weird cards where it's not played in every single Mage deck, of course. You look at Freeze Mage, even most of the Discover Mage's list. Sometimes even Tempo Mage didn't play it as well. But the card itself is just great. If that card was neutral, that would be in so many decks. Just 4 mana, 3/6. You look at a Jinyu and how difficult it is to clear, except instead of healing, you can potentially just freeze your opponent's minions or your opponent's face out of the game. So very, very big sticky minion to be able to deal with. And also seen it played in the old Elemental Mage that has popped up now and again in this tournament, but I imagine it's not going to be Elemental Mage.
Yeah, I managed to dodge the Elemental Mage. I've seen the cast, but I managed to not have to be the one who did that cast, thankfully. I thought you guys did great.
Yeah, it's definitely fun to cast something like that. Looking at these hands now, Czech Cloud, 2 Jade Lightning is going to be really nice just for flexible removal tools, and that Stonehill Defenders, given not to cards like White Eyes, is generally the pick here, as it's just such a high value card. And again, very similar to Elise, where 5 mana 5/5 is just good, and then you add the effect, so the Death Rattle / Taunt, and that's just actually insane.
Yeah, Jades obviously do better later in the game. That anyone can see that. So what the Wall Shamans try and do is just get to that later part of the game so that the Jades can then take over with the value. The Bloodlust means that there's going to be other things going on in this deck as well, though. It's just a win condition out of nowhere sometimes. Yep,
definitely always a threat. Jade Lightning and the weapon swing onto this Water Elemental will clear it up nicely and doesn't even lose too much. You kind of lose the ability to equip the Jade Claws the next turn and swing with them. You can equip them just for the Jade Ramp if you really want, but swinging with it isn't going to happen as you do stay frozen, but still clearing off the Water Elemental in just one relatively easy turn is going to be good here for Czech.
Yeah, they're still on 26, and there will probably be health gain in this deck as well, although not absolutely certainly. And so, tell Raven's at the desk. He's just giving me the sign of told you so.
Well, I didn't say it. I didn't say it, Lorinda.
I saw it in your eyes, Raven.
Look.
I saw it in your eyes.
I do generally heavily consider the Flame Strike because Flame Strike 1 is just good against Shaman. There are cards that, just the hero power for a start is actually a pain if there's Flame Tongue Totems in the deck. Potential Bloodlust, as you mentioned earlier. Flame Strike for 5 mana is incredible. Like, it's so good. You just pretty much guarantee a clear on the board unless very later on, Czech manages to get the Jades big enough that it just doesn't, Flame Strike doesn't do the job. But it looks like No Name, suddenly my new favorite player in HGG, just slams the Pyro pick on turn 4.
Yeah, the Flame Strike made a lot of sense there because it's not just that you can play it on turn 5, it's mean you can play it on turn 10 because it's so cheap and still have most of your, or a chunk of your turn left to develop behind it. But Belarus decided, you know what, the way we're winning this game is the Raven way. We're just going to kill you until you die from it.
I like it. Jade Claw's now an option. Again, as I said earlier, you can equip it. Doesn't do anything in terms of swinging it, so a bit unfortunate now for Czech that he can't do those 2 points of damage onto the Archaeologist. If he really wanted to, he could Jade Claws and Jade Lightning this 2/2, but that seems awfully like a large amount of overkill because with the Devolve now in hand, it looks like this deck is, very much a control deck. We did see Stonehills, but you could potentially play a bit more aggressive in general. There's the White Eyes we all know and love, though, so I'd be kind of amazed if this wasn't the pick. Small consideration for Hot Spring, though.
Yeah, especially as they think they may be up against an aggressive deck right now. They haven't got a feel for what they're against, nor have we. I mean, it could still be either or at this point, although I'm leaning the same as you now, that it's Discover with a Water Elemental thrown in. Yeah. But the Czech Republic definitely aren't entirely sure because they haven't seen the hand like we have. They don't know about the block like we do. And so they just going to hedge their bets a bit and just go with the healing in the hand. Yeah,
well, me and Saul cast a game yesterday with the Shaman versus the Mage, and it ended up being just a few more points of heal, few more points of heal, few more points of heal, and then suddenly the Mage actually kind of does run out of burn because although there's so much damage in the deck, what if you just don't draw into it all, right? You still have to draw the cards. You can't just pull them all and go for it. But with an additional extra 8 mana Pyroblast already in hand, that could be a bit more easy for the Mage.
Just to point out there that while you were going through that, the Meteor, your favorite Volcano card, came to hand. And it's pretty much the final piece in the puzzle of what they are definitely playing here.
Yeah, this is just the Discover Mage with a Water Elemental. But like I said, I'm sure now you've said it, I'm sure it is APX. It's been having quite good success actually with a new Tempo Mage yet again. Fortunately for No Name here, Belarus, he needs to get that Medes Valley live, and that should be relatively easy next turn, but he would float 1 mana if he wants to.
New Water Speaker, a nod to the fact that this is indeed a very defensive deck that could well take on this Mage and definitely going to take it a long way down the line. Their aim will now be to try to not die until their Jades get enormous, and all the time maybe just teasing with that Bloodlust, maybe try and get 4 minions on board so that Bloodlust is an ongoing threat.
Yeah, because there's just Alex Straza in the deck more than likely as heal for the Mage to a certain extent. a lot of the time, just Bloodlust when you can, right? If you can get decent value and you don't think your board's going to get any bigger, or you want to take the pressure play, just slam Bloodlust. I think a lot of it's a trick a lot of new players sort of slide into, where they're like, I need to play Bloodlust to finish the game that turn. You actually don't. It's very similar to Savage Roar. You play it when you think you're going to get the most damage out of it in most matchups.
Yeah, Savage Roar, a really good example of how that works now, because we're seeing time and again now, Druids never wait to kill you with Savage Roar. They just play it as soon as they
and gain an advantage.
They're not going to have anything better than this turn right now, which is usually like turn 3, because things are starting to get picked off, so let's just do the damage now.
Yep. It's going to be a couple of easy trades there for Czech, pushing face a little bit, building up this board. Stonehill can die, not a huge problem here, and the timing of this Hot Spring and Jinyu is going to be very, very important here for the Czech Republic, because if they do it too early, then Alex Straza wombo combo kill will just end the game. If they do it too late, the healing might not be enough, because, again, there are cards like an additional Pyro for 8 mana, which is important because you can Frostbolt on top of that.
Right.
You could potentially have a Glyphed Fireball for 2 mana as well, so it's 16 damage, 2 cards out of nowhere. You know, something you don't expect. So, not something you can play around often, but something to just bear in mind in terms of timing those heals.
Yeah, on the other side, they may have like Spirit Echo in the deck, in which case they definitely want to hold on to them as long as they possibly can to get twice the healing for twice the fun.
What's scary about that, though, against Mage is that Mage doesn't have to interact with the board a lot of the time. Like, because the Spirit Echoes have to die.
Right, so you have to actually kill the minions.
Yeah,
right.
the Mage can be like, I'm okay just getting poked by these small healing minions and just go face.
We have seen people kill off their own minions last week to make sure they could get the extra healing. That was against a Freeze Mage, I believe.
Volcano's a good card for that as well that can help.
Right.
Double Devolve in this deck, wow. Cards that aren't going to get tons of value against Discover Mage. They have the cheap early minions, and then they have Medivh and whatever he spawns, but a lot of the time he's spawning like 6, 7, 8 mana plus minions anyway. You devolve an 8 to a 7. Okay, you know, it's still going to be decent most of the time.
You're never losing to Silence Priest, though.
That's
ever.
True. That's true.
Obviously, that's not the reason.
Nice
but
Divine Spirit Devolve.
yeah, it's just, hey, have a Wisp.
Yeah, and we see it against aggro. We saw it yesterday have very large success against Aggro Druid, because a lot of their minions are 1 or 2, so you make them 1 or 0, which means they're just pretty insignificant, and they lose all the buffs on them, of course.
Yeah, the point with the Aggro Druid being all the early value, and if you just turn it into Wisps, which is obviously infinite value, but after you've spent the mana already, that's not quite how it works. Actually using the healing here to protect their minion, going to allow them to, well, would have allowed them to kill the book, but the Mirror Entity scuppered everything there.
Yeah. Now I've got to think about Meteor. Although this natural progression of minions is working out, where Meteor is kind of like weirdly ineffective against this board position here, just because of the way the minions have been summoned. So imagine a Flame Strike would be pretty sweet.
Yeah, a board that now actually has to be dealt with, and Sottle and I would talk about this, the actual mass removal in this deck isn't quite as good as in maybe Freeze Mage or something. It's not so bad now you get to turn 7 and 8, but certainly not the amounts you get in Freeze Mage, and so they're going to have to really use this Meteor carefully, and this may not be the board for doing so, but if they don't, then they're going to have to start using their Burn that wants to go face on the minions.
Very tough one. What's good here is Silence Paul is kind of a halfway between those two options. You can Silence Paul the 4/4, kill it off, and hopefully develop, hopefully for Belarus at least, develop a reasonable sized minion to continue battling for the board. So that kind of does, does both. Obviously, the Silence Paul is kind of a difficult one to use for burst because it's so expensive.
Just a quick note about Czech Cloud. One of the things he was saying about this tournament, he's been playing competitive games for 15 years now, and he feels this is one of his last chances because he's too old. I can tell you full well you're never too old. But that was
Lauren has an issue with that statement, Czech Cloud.
That was his assessment of the situation. Like I say, he's got another at least 20 years left yet looking at that.
He can just cast, it'll be fine. Once you get too old for Hearthstone, you just cast instead, as confirmed by Lorinda and Sol.
Wow.
And Kibble.
Wow.
And Admirable.
I mean,
I'm just naming all the casters that are older
You're
than
just
me.
going, well, there's the baby of this outfit for the time being.
Well, for now, I'm not mentioning like Frodan, TJ.
Gaskin, Falcone.
All right.
You know, you've got to look these guys in the eyes and tell them that you're young
I'm
at
young
some time.
and hip, guys. That's what the kids say nowadays, right?
Back to this game of Hearthstone that we're supposed to be casting, however.
These devolves, again, just being almost dead in the hand, at least for the time being. And you mentioned about the lack of strong AoE in the mage deck, and the general idea is that you discover the AoE is a responsive card, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's Flame Strike, they're responsive cards, and they are pointless in certain matchups, which is kind of what makes this deck strong. The idea is you discover what you need based on the matchup. It's like a completely adaptable deck a lot of the time. So now, looking at, you know, if there's a Cabal Courier or another Glyph, you're probably looking for Flame Strike, Blizzard, Volk Potion, so on.
It's going to be very interesting to see if that Pyroblast, which could have been a Flame Strike, was the right call as well.
Yeah.
Because it is one of those decks that, as you've mentioned multiple times, you need a lot of experience with to get the feel for what to discover, especially if you're doing it that early in the game. And this could have been a Flame Strike, and I'm not saying it's right or wrong, because 10 to the face is still looking powerful, but a Flame Strike would also be a decent-looking card for 5 mana at the moment.
Yeah, this turn could be a Meteor Frostbolt to clear out the minions, just leaving the totems on the board. And you are only spending a Frostbolt, which isn't the end of the world. It's not like you're having to like Fireball 2 minions, because then suddenly your burn starts to look a little bit dicey when you've already used a Violence Portal as well.
We need to assess how much healing they think is left in the Czech Republic hand as well, because they've accumulated a whole bunch of damage in their hand. They've got 19 plus buffs from Blood Mage plus pings. 25 isn't far from 19 plus all that stuff.
Definitely. It's very similar to Freeze Mage at this point, where you need to start saying, how much damage do I have? What the likelihood on him healing past it? You've seen 1 Hot Spring, 1 Jinyu so far. There's a chance that you could actually just go kind of aggressive here.
The complication, of course, compared to Freeze Mage is that you also have the option to just wait for Medivh.
Yeah, this plays really weird to me. This is something I looked at, the Thalnos into the Meteor instead. But the thing from below is going to whack you in the face for 5. The totem kills the Thalnos. So you could have actually just used Frostbolt this turn instead of having to wait, take 5 and ping.
Right.
So I don't know, it's a little bit ropey. We actually Devolve used though on the Thalnos, which is kind of awkward.
The Secret Keeper's actually a really awkward thing to turn it into against a deck that's got secrets in it.
He can continue the 5-1.
Yeah, that looks like a decent play, but it is a card they wouldn't want to waste for the healing.
It's tough, but could just be setting up for a Bloodlust to try and just win the game next turn, as there is a lot of damage presented in. You're pretty confident with how mediocre that Meteor was. You know, your opponent's probably not got good AoE. They would have Flame Striked if they had Flame Strike on that board, right? Because they had they had a Flame Strike and could have set up for it the previous turn by doing some damage to the thing from below.
Going to do some numbers now to see if they think they can just go face here.
I think you always go face.
And yeah, I don't see why you wouldn't, but you know, worth checking. They've done all the other parts of the equation. Now it's just this one decision with 2 options available to them.
This is rough. I just feel like for want of using a Frostbolt, you could have avoided a lot of this pressure now. Imagine if there was just the Jinyu and you had +5 health.
Imagine if that Pyroblast was a Flame Strike.
Yeah.
Don't want to say this was right or wrong. They made the decision many turns ago before they knew how the game was going to develop, but that is a definite decision they have made that could make a difference in this game.
Yeah. I mean, overall, I do like an aggressive stance roughly almost all the time with this deck, especially against a control deck, right? You just kill them. That's the overall plan. But I just think the Meteor turn could have been a little bit better if the Frostbolt was used.
Right.
But there is a Ice Block and an Ice Barrier. Now Flame Gazer as well is going to be pretty good just for some extra damage. Now suddenly, you know, the Secret plus the Medivh Valley is starting to add up to a lot of damage here.
Yeah, and taking down the thing from below and staying out of range.
Value there for the Secret Keeper as well. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah. That was just an awful roll just for the Czech Republic there when the Secret Keeper came out. It's like, yeah, here's some stuff.
Draw a card, it's fine. Okay, so now, these are the turns now where you start thinking, do we just Bloodlust? There are 4 minions on the board,
right.
So you get 12 extra damage, basically.
So 16 total.
Yeah, and are you ever going to get more now that your opponent's got 2 minions on board? They've still got a lot of cards. You know, they've just gained another spell from Buck. Like, are they just going to make this board smaller and smaller for the rest of the game now? Definitely a tough call. Okay. Easy for us to see.
Yeah, they're thinking of devolving this, so that's interesting, as it's a fairly easy board to deal with without using your devolve. Yeah. It does... Oh no, they tests for counterspell. We have seen counterspell appear in mage decks, or at least you have, in the last couple of days.
I mean, you were there as well.
I don't remember any counterspell ever happening in Hearthstone.
Okay.
But I know that you may have witnessed one.
This Hot Spring is... Yeah, this kind of play from Czech is worrying me a little bit. They're clearly just unconcerned about Alexstrasza at this point. They've used 2 Hot Springs and 2 Jinyus now. And if Alexstrasza just comes down this turn, then, maybe not even this turn, but if they get Ice Block this turn, I suppose they can prot the block with the Bloodlust. So maybe they're just thinking about that. More minions on the board, go for Bloodlust.
Yeah, if the Alexstrasza play, they just win the game because the block's not been set up.
Still, though, you do open yourself up just a little bit. But maybe with the healing they used earlier, they've just resigned themselves to the fact that, well, if Alexstrasza happens, we don't have enough healing anyway to stabilize.
Sometimes Alexstrasza just happens.
I just like power to the face. No, I'm joking. Acolyte Pain, not a card you see too often in Discover Mage, actually. I think there might be Cabal Courier's cut from this list.
We've not seen that
one yet.
If that card goes, I don't mind it. I understand the point, but it
reduces the flexibility of your deck, though.
Sure.
That's the problem.
Sure. But if you play the Water Elemental, that's a pretty good card that gives you some mid-game that this deck is something you pointed out. This deck struggles from turn 4 through to about turn 6. Yep. Water Elemental plus pinging your Acolyte on 5. Maybe that's just a little bit of mana efficiency compared to card flexibility that you're going for.
Yeah, it does just narrow the field in which you can play with this deck, though. But seeing already, I think Belarus quickly need to just decide what's going on here. Interesting. Using Flame Geyser, they are definitely nervous about Bloodlust. 100%. You would never Flame Geyser a 1-1 if you were bothered about Bloodlust.
Hot Spring Guardian. And yeah, I think they've sussed out the Bloodlust because of the fact these Guardians have been put on the table. It's like, why are you going to put all your healing on the table unless you're going to go wide for a reason?
Now, Belarus have to think about how much damage they have, how much healing they've seen, and what they've got left in the deck. There's still probably a Pyroblast. There's still, I think, another Fireball, another Frostbolt. There's been not that much removal actually used. There's been 1 Violence Portal, I believe, mainly used as removal so far. Medes Valley as well. I see Devolve and
Mana Wraith.
Yeah. Doesn't really change too much for Czech Cloud.
No, just using that to deny the card, of course, there.
I mean, what that changed was they couldn't Bloodlust and Hot Spring on the same turn if they didn't kill the Mana Wraith. But not really the end of the world.
They do seem to be taking a little bit of time to set up here, though, the Czech Republic.
Yeah, I mean, they're probably nervous. What interests me here is it feels like they're nervous about self-Alexstrasza for Belarus to heal back up to 15. Right. But you still have a board full of minions if that happens, and you have a Hex. What are you actually afraid of? You know what I mean? Yep. Like, you've seen that there's no AoE. If there was, it probably would have been used to clear here.
Second Ice Block. This may give Belarus the confidence to start burning face, but they haven't quite got enough damage to do it.
Yeah, Belarus sorely lacking an Alexstrasza now. If they drew into Alexstrasza, this game becomes very straightforward from this point. Alexstrasza face, next turn, kill them. Done. Or at least next turn set up to kill them.
Next turn set up, Ice Block again, and then just kill them. Yeah. And especially if you've seen all of the healing, you haven't seen any elementals particularly, so you're not too worried about Kalimos happening. And so that would be nice. But as it happens, they haven't got Alexstrasza, and they've lost their ability to ping for it because the Czech Republic used the Devolve to get rid of the Acolyte of Pain.
Yeah. So let's think about things. They have, to be fair, they have 13 damage this turn if they really want. They could just Pyroblast ping instead. They could play Mana Worm, Flame Elemental, Pyroblast. But I do think they need to start doing damage. Sometimes, if you ain't drawing Alexstrasza, well, you've got to pretend you ain't going to draw it, and instead you're going to draw into the burn.
Right.
But it looks like No Name is, again, playing for the sort of value game going on here, trying to reduce this board down and just spending time to not get the block proc. So it does look like they are biding time for the offensive Alexstrasza, just to set up that Alexstrasza and then, Fireball, Ice Block, Pyroblast win.
Yeah, which is what they've kept exactly in their hand, and their deck's getting thin. I'm going to guess it's in the region of 12 cards left. I'm not exactly sure, but that means that each turn they can survive extra. They've got 1 in 12, then a 1 in 11, 1 in 10 of winning. Maybe they've got 20 or 30% chance of just getting an Alexstrasza victory. Plus, other things can happen, like Medivh. If you don't use the Pyro now, you get your Medivh down, you Pyro something, and you get a big minion. And
another card that could be waiting for. Does it look like Bloodlust is going to be used for Czech Cloud, at least they're hovering it. Prokovac, you can see on the side there, just shaking his head a little bit. Wonder if he's like, actually, no, I don't like Bloodlust this turn. And Czech Cloud's like, yes, I like it, and I'm controlling the list. I'm controlling the deck in this specific game. They are going to go for it. And I do like this, as we said like a few turns ago. just lust them when you have all the damage in the world. So it's gonna start trading away though.
Yeah, they're surprisingly worried about minions here and protecting stuff and getting this down now to a situation where Belarus are going to need that Alex Straza now.
Yeah, I think Czech, like, they couldn't proc the block, and Mana Worm is one of those cards where if there's a Flame Strike and a Bolt clear and Mana Worm lives, then suddenly you're in trouble, as there's, you know, if you have to Hex a Mana Worm, it gets a bit risky indeed. Volcanic Potion is going to be the draw now. This would have been nice a long, long time ago, but can be used with either a ping onto the Hot Spring to clear it off, or a ping onto the Mana Tide to clear it off.
Yeah, it's actually a reasonable pickup, considering it is not Alex Straza, which is the card they need to pick up. It's just another turn where the block probably doesn't get blocked.
Plop the block.
That's what you do to them.
Yes, exactly. This is tough, though. I feel like Belarus might have just been going a little bit too slow. I do joke around a little bit with you guys about this deck, but sometimes you do have to just go for it and know that you have burn in your deck still that you can draw into. Because suddenly, even with this Volk Potion and a ping, well, the Jinyu's still alive. Either the Hot Spring or the Mana Tide's still alive, both of which are huge problems, and they're starting to push damage. And even if Czech can't proc the block this turn, that you've got me saying it now, then it means that they're still pressuring the block, and unless there's Alex Straza to help that, they then gets answered by Hex. What do Belarus do if they have to Alex Straza themselves? Like, how are they ever going to do 28 when they've just spent so much damage?
Would be the only solution at that point, if it's even in the deck. And they seem to have lowered the curve a little bit. It's probably in here. It would make sense for it to still be in here. I don't think you can cut it.
Well, just play Freeze Mage then, right? But like, you know, if you're not playing Medivh, just play Freeze Mage instead.
Yeah, Freeze Mage and Mana Worm, the point of this deck.
Yeah. There's some Shaman lists that run double Bloodlust, but they're token-based lists more than anything, which this doesn't look like it is. So I imagine this that Bloodlust was the one and only in there. So I wonder how much thought they're going to put into this Firefly.
I feel like you want to play an elemental every turn if you've got Kalimos in your deck.
We've not seen any. We've seen only Hot Springs though, right? We've not even
Exactly.
seen
Exactly. No, I don't think there is, but just.
Well, the Firefly's there just because Bloodlust is a card,
Yeah,
and Firefly is just a solid card in almost any single.
No, I agree.
Anyway. But I think what they're working out is if they play double the Firefly and the Flame Elemental, that's 3 damage this turn and 5 next turn.
Yeah.
So they can proc the block, as far as they see it.
They're thinking about portaling first there to see what they got as well, which was another option, but.
I think waiting's fine. This sets up lethal on board. I say lethal, the block procking on
which
board.
Which is important.
And there's just been like no good AoE all game from Belarus here, so you've got to just presume that, well, there probably still isn't, you know, at this point. Let's see, second Fireball.
Can Fireball the 3/4 ping off the Mana Tide and buy yourself another turn and still have the Alex Straza option open to you.
Yeah, buy yourself another turn as far as you're aware, though. There could be burn in hand. Your opponent's drawing 2 cards a turn now. So it gets a little bit risky that, again, Fireball in the Jinyu. Well, how do you ever kill your opponent again? You Fireball ping and then cross fingers for Alex Straza one more time. You're very slowly just, you know, losing this game, basically.
In fairness, they've had a lot of draws to win it, though.
Yep.
And they can probably assess there's no more healing in this deck. Like the Kalimos arguments, we've gone through that. They will go through this
other than like Voodoo Doctor or something random. Like,
yeah, Voodoo Doctor, etc.
Which people can't laugh too hard at. It's been played in Rogue.
It's been played in Warlock as well, that class that everyone plays all the time.
Yeah, I think when Sivka built his Warlock deck, he just searched heal in the collection manager. It was like, boop, 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 boop.
All right, they're going for it.
Okay, at last, this is what I'm talking about. Belarus going for the Pyroblast. And what this means is they can Fireball ping twice, which is 14. Suddenly they just need a Frostbolt, another Pyroblast to finish them after.
And they've
the
got
second
3 draws for it.
That's what I'm saying. Now they've got the time. And this is what I was saying a bit earlier, where with the 2 blocks, you've actually got a lot of time to just kill them when you know most of your deck is filled with burn. Now, no doubt, they'll be like, you know, Medieval get drawn.
Water Elemental, like, no! Mana Worm.
We could have waited one more turn.
Alex Straza straight off the top, absolutely guaranteed this turn.
Yep.
That's how Hearthstone works.
More than likely. So Volcano is the draw hit for Czech Republic.
That's just dead.
And Medivh. There we go. So that's actually kind of funny. But there is going to be 14 damage available across 2 turns. The Medivh cannot be played or he will die. So Ice Block now with the Fireball ping, no doubt. And then it's all going to go on next turn. And what Fireball ping does this turn as well is put their opponent to 10, which means there's Pyroblast or there's Fireball Ping, Fireball Ping next turn, and then hope to draw a Frostbolt as well.
Of course, the Valet will be ruled out as an option. I think there's still one left because the secret will have been removed by the time they get to the next card. And they're down to 6 cards in their library. Yeah? Hi, Raven.
Kalamos is in the deck.
Hi, Raven.
This deck just plays Hot Springs, Fireflies, and Kalamos.
Hi.
What's going on?
How's it going?
That's crazy. Well,
Kalamos, for those people who don't know, is going to be able to heal the Czech Republic for 12 points of health. And as I said, they might want to play an Elemental every turn, in case they top deck Kalamos.
Yeah.
But realistically, I agree with you, by the way, and with Belarus's assessment that
if this
probably
was done 5 turns ago, Lorinda, this wouldn't be a problem. I'm joking. So there's Aya Blackbot. So we've just I wonder how many elementals. Oh my god, the Pyroblast was drawn as well. It's literally come down to that. Absolutely crazy there. See the second Pyroblast being quite late in the deck, but Czech Republic taking that game off the back of the most timely of Kalamos. And Czech Cloud there, just giving a salute to the camera, saying, "Yep, job done for me." There's one in the bag for Czech Republic. Definitely the favourites going into this match, but that was very, very close. Maybe a tiny bit unfortunate that it took so long to get Medivh even in the hand. Alex Straza still wasn't drawn, but you can see the kind of power that when you do go for it with that much burn available. For example, there was a Frostbolt in hand a lot earlier in the game, where there was Frostbolt 2 Fireballs, Pyroblast. So you can push that kind of damage, but you do understand holding on for the Alex Straza, which was almost a guaranteed win. But a sneaky Kalamos, we just didn't see that many elementals. Just Hot Springs, right? Hot Springs and Fireflies.
Just go face, he said. What could go wrong, he said.
Crazy. So for Smushko and Stansivka are going to face off, and it is going to be Druid versus Warrior here. The old, your favorite deck, the Quest Warrior, Lorinda, versus a Druid of some kind. Potentially, it could be Pirates, of course, but the Druid list I'm very interested in. I would always struggle to get away from just playing Jade Druid most of the time.
Yeah, just going to quickly go back to that last one. So they chose to take the Pyroblast, which indicates the strategy you're on about, just shoot things in the face. And then they switched into Alex Straza mode.
Well, the thing is, to be fair, I go hard on just going highly aggressive, but to be fair, if they'd drawn Alex Straza in any of the last 6 turns,
they would have won.
It was almost a guaranteed win, minus a Kalamos. But even with that, you still have Alex Straza on the board. They probably can't Kalamos. They might have the Elemental live, for example. A lot of ifs and buts, really. But the overall idea for the Pyroblast early was decent. The Flame Strike's always nice versus Shaman, but didn't quite work out like that.
It was an interesting match.
Yeah, but it is going to be the Warrior and Druid now, and again, I struggle to see past Jade. I feel like Aggro Druid can somehow... It feels like Rogue, right? It either wins or loses almost down to itself most of the time. Sometimes it can draw very dead. It can not get the refills on the board. So if the board is cleared once outside living mana, it's normally very difficult.
It's also deck of the day. I think last week we expected to see a lot of Jade as well, and we didn't see much Jade last week. It was almost all aggro, but the time wasn't quite right. Play some ladder today, guys. There'll be some Jade Druid on there because everybody is trying to beat Mage, they're trying to beat Quest Warrior, they're just beating, there's a lot of Priest about, and Jade Druid defeats nearly all of those. It struggles a little bit with a Silence Priest, maybe. But
yeah, at worst, you've got a decent chance in most of the time.
Druid is just the pick at the moment, so it looks like this will be Druid into most likely Quest Warrior, but it doesn't have to be.
Yeah, and what I'd say as well is that this could be another, talked about often, like the whole putting classes with certain players as well. Sifka on the Druid. Sifka, I've not seen play aggro Druid too often. He plays the most controlly of decks almost all the time.
Elite Druid.
Well, known for building control decks as well. Even his control warriors were probably more greedy than most players playing control warrior at the time in the past. Even in this expansion, he's built effectively control warlock with all the heals, Doom, Blood Bloom as well in the deck. Anything along those lines. He played tons of Reno, Mage, and Warlock when it was out in the past couple of expansions as well.
So you're saying you think there might be something interesting in this deck, or do you think it'd just be a straight up Jade Druid?
No, there'll always be something. If it's Jade Druid, it's got just a random card in there somewhere. Yeah, just why not?
The quest in Jade Druid.
Just to be like,
you're summoning
I'm Sifka. We'll turn 1 quest, do it. But yeah, there's probably something in Sifka's list, more than likely. If he's even built the list, although he is one of the main deck builders on the team, so it surprised me if it's not.
And in fact, we should be talking about what might turn up in all of their decks that Sivka just turned and gone, you know what? This particular deck, let's shove one of these in there and see what it does.
That would be a worry, though, because Sivka's like not only just a good deck builder, he builds like he doesn't build particularly just, oh, this is just a solid deck.
Right.
He builds like Sivka decks, which you're just like, I don't understand why this is here. He plays it in a tournament, destroys people with it, and then you try it out and you're like, why can't I make this work? So I think putting a Sivka build and giving it to someone else who's maybe not as practiced with it might be a bit of a worry, but instead all this conversation doesn't matter.
For not the first time.
Just get him. Mushko playing for Belarus on the Pirate Warrior is going to have to say hello to Sivka's little friend Golaka Crawler and Bloodsail Corsair. This is the Pirate Warrior toolkit of beating this deck. It's absolutely incredible. Even the double Fireflies in the opening. Holy moly. And this Golaka Crawler doesn't even have to come out this turn.
Right.
Not even at all. You could play the Corsair coin into Firefly. Corsair, although not massive taking the durability off the hook, but more importantly can get patches out to kill one of the pirates. Because the Golaka Crawler can kill anything with a pirate tag. So you're looking at Naga Corsair, the Cultist, you know, some of the bigger minions as well, even the Ton.
So he's almost the control for the first 2 turns here, because Pirates is not at all good at dealing with a wide board, and this hand with double Firefly and Egg Napper is going to go as wide as you like by turn 4 or 5. And he can save that Crawler, as you were saying, for a big minion. He can save the Bloodsail Corsair if he wants to not go wide with patches until Arcanite Reaper comes down, if he wants to go that long.
Yeah, to be honest, even looking at it, maybe even just double Firefly is good this turn.
Right.
Just put 2 1/2s. They already beat the board that's down, you know, like by leaving a 1/1 alive effectively if you match everything up. And then you just Golaka Crawler the potential 2-drop. If the 2-drop's a weapon, then you can go Bloodsail Corsair.
Or just play 2 Elementals the turn after. But no, he just wants to get a 3-4 on the board. Why not?
Oh, look at the claps from Mushko! Unhappy, although they're laughing, he cannot believe it. He's like, okay, I've just been Golaka Crawlered.
And he might be wondering why that took all of 75 seconds. But we can see there's a lot of choices there. There was definitely the option to just wait and kill a bigger pirate with this.
Yeah, and the Crawler just kills the Raider now. I mean, yeah, great. Great, you're heading damage.
Sure.
It's like, awesome. Oh, punished. Sometimes punished. Patches being in hand, not the absolute worst for Druid, because at worst, you can often play Patches and a buff in the same turn to get like a 2/2 charge. So, obviously not great, but not horrendous either.
Quite a complicated turn. Aggro versus aggro can often get incredibly complicated incredibly quickly. Well, he's not going to do it slowly, is it? It can get incredibly complicated at the start of the games.
I wonder, so there's an option here, I think, for Sivka. I think Sivka has to clear the board because of Cultist being a card. So there's either Firefly Patches to clear, or you just Hero Power clear. But the problem with Hero Power is you don't develop anything yourself. So although you lose the Patches, maybe not completely terrible, it was drawn here. Let's get some value and presents Firefly onto the board.
Firefly on the board, not a lot of stuff in hand to deal with a big minion, and that might be an issue over the next 2 or 3 turns, but he should be able to go wide enough to start drawing for Savage Roar, to start drawing for any of those multiple buffs Lotus in his deck.
Yeah, often the way Pirate Warrior wins this matchup is actually playing the removal game.
Right.
They actually just keep the Druid board empty because they've got so many little minions to do it with, and then they just win through having more, like, burst from hand, so to speak, as opposed to Druid relying on having a board to be able to burst. This can change a little bit with the introduction of living mana into the deck.
Yeah.
Because Pirate Warrior can like kill off all the minions, make all the trades, keep a bit of a board, living mana, and you're like, oh, I can't kill just like 6 5/5s. Like, this is awkward.
Yeah, that's the thing that Druid does now.
5 2/2s.
Is it goes wide, you might be able to kill it with, like you say, living mana, and Finger as well is also capable of just making a board from nowhere. As well as, like, Egg Nap is just a nuisance.
Yep. And no easy way to kill the 1/1s a lot of the time from the Egg Napper.
Deck hand. Down to only 2 cards in hand, but they are getting the board, and this is going to be awkward to deal with for the short term. Never mind. Mark of Visage looking absolutely beautiful here. Now it's just a case of what you want to set it up on. Do you want to set it up on 3 minions?
Do you want to preemptively set up play Mark of Yashraj, or do you mean play it next turn?
Just play it next turn.
Yeah, okay.
We just kill something with it next turn, and everything is good in the
I
world.
think the egg nap is probably just fine, right? It directly challenges the raider,
Yep.
and if the weapon goes into it, one, you've done 3 damage. 2, that's probably not going to trade into 2 1/1s. If they do, fine, it stems the tide of damage anyway, and you can just then splurge onto the board with all the 1/1s.
Yep.
Okay, so there's going to be the trade happening. And we might even see the deckhand go into the 1/1 here.
We might, but the pirates have got to do damage at some point. But I think you're right. I think we do see
You
it
play
going to
Zoo, though,
1/1.
right?
Yeah.
You just play Zoo against Druid.
Yeah. Yeah, if the Druid runs out of minions, and sometimes it just gets stuck with all these Mark of Visage, etc. in their hand that just can't be played.
Yeah. And the benefit as well of playing Egg Napper, of course, is it leaves beasts on the board, so then you get the card draw as well.
Yeah, that's exactly what's going to happen if they aren't cleared up.
I'd be genuinely surprised if Mushko doesn't clear.
Yeah.
Like, what's 2 damage, right? Just who cares? You've got, you will draw. Oh, wow, okay. So I didn't go for the clear. Valued the 2 damage and said, there's a living mana for next turn as well. So this turn can be Corsair with the Mark of Yasharaj and their Firefly. Then going into living mana, he plays Bitter Tide Hydra, which is actually hard for the Pirate Warrior to do with outside of already having a board and trading multiple low attack minions in. But when you look at Pirate Warrior, they actually have a lot of low attack minions that do less than 3 anyway.
Yeah, it feels like you're getting hit by a whole swarm of stuff, but actually you're just getting hit by a huge weapon and a huge dude. And
so this, you could even try and set up the Hydra into living mana, which would just be insane.
yeah, on 26 health as well. So the downside of the Hydra can sometimes, you eat 9 and it dies. That's bad, but
Pirate Warrior, you can't really raise Hydra, like I said. I don't think it does a good enough job in general. Do you like the Corsair here? There's a worry, right? So you could play the Corsair and then Arcanine Reaper gets equipped and you're like, okay. Or you could play the Corsair to stop a cultist being played to extend the weapon, but the weapon is only a hook.
yeah, I think you just that Corsair is preventing them from killing you out of thin air later on. I think punished, yeah, I guess.
Punished in the smallest of extents.
I think that Sivka feels that he's winning this game, therefore will save the Corsair for emergencies. If he felt he was losing it, he'd use it for the immediate swing right now, I think.
To effectively heal to a large extent.
Yeah.
Now, the question is, living mana or Hydra this turn? I think living mana ends up being better, right?
The fact that the Hydra actually gets killed and you take 9, even though it's not a total disaster, just feels a little bit too... That feels like a lot you're giving away. Living mana kind of just threatens to win the game.
Well, my worry is, does Hydra get killed? Because you have the same amount of damage, right?
Right.
So you have 8 just on board as the Pirate Warrior, never mind the weapon. You're probably going to draw some more damage or another, like Frothing Berserker, still on the list, Corcoran Elite, for example. So you can actually just race the Hydra at this point because a Hydra being on its own is way less scary than living mana with potentially 2 buffs in hand. Then suddenly that, or Savage Roar, right? Hydra getting Savage Roar is +4 damage. Living mana getting Savage Roar just changes things, although it couldn't be cast.
Could be just immediately, but then if they haven't killed your stuff and given you some mana, you probably won anyway.
Exactly, yeah. And if the living mana starts getting traded away, then you play Hydra and probably win because it's been traded away, right?
He can, by the way, also just play the other 3 things in his hand.
That is option 3 that we didn't go too much into.
He can do this because this makes the living mana better. It delays the Hydra, and it actually challenges the board pretty well.
That's first, mate. Going to refill that weapon slot, but not with the most scary weapon in the world.
And the minion that's already on the board gets charge.
So there's 13 damage if just Heroic Strike and everything to face this turn. How valuable is that? Because suddenly, you're not on a lot of resources as the warrior, and that Egg Nap is a bit of a pain. Because, yeah, you can kill it, but then it creates 2 more minions that kill your minions. So it's kind of rough.
I'm just looking if Belarus go face. What is the response from the Czech Republic?
Well, they can just trade away and play Hydra or mana, right?
Yeah.
So that's the thing, because the Egg Napper kind of trades pretty well, and the whole board trades quite well in general. I wonder whether you just ignore the board and let them trade if they want to, because you're still far away from being dead to Savage Roar.
Yeah, I think all face. Maybe you make 1 trade. Like, you can take a free kill if you want to. It's not a free kill because of Egg Napper, but you can take a kill.
I like this. Oh, okay.
Okay, so yeah, they take the free kill there, so the Egg Napper can't kill both things.
Yep. So just isolates the Egg Napper onto the board, which is nice. Living Mana is now an option if you want to go really wide, and now Mark of the Lotus has been drawn. It's kind of hard to not want to play Living Mana this turn.
It really is.
Knowing you can make them 3/3s the turn after.
There is the option to bump in the Egg Napper first to take up an extra slot on the board, so you can keep 1 mana in hand and Lotus immediately.
I like it. Why not, right?
I think so. Yeah, I think
you gain more damage overall.
Yeah.
I like this. It gets a value trade, going to be Living Mana. This works out perfectly. Living Mana only takes the mana that it can play onto the board, as you said, so creating those additional minions mean there's only going to be 5. And this Mark of the Lowest is going to work out pretty well, and this is what we were saying earlier. Living Mana can sometimes just win you the game as there's no good response. Fire War Axe and Heroic Strike going to be 7 damage from hand, but is 7 damage enough at this point?
So 16 plus the ability to gain 1 if needed for the Druid. That seems plenty. Especially as these Living Mana dudes can just start removing everything from the board. And they've got like 2-turn lethal amongst them as well.
Yeah, there's 20 damage just with hero power here, represented on the board.
Like you do.
From the Druid. Yeah, it's kind of funny because like the Force of Nature Savage Draw combo of old was 14 damage from hand. Like, yeah, it's rough. This is not the same, but kind of, because how does, a lot of decks clear this board? They normally don't, right? It's normally very, very difficult indeed.
And 7 2/2s is 14, and I'm sure that's no accident.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's how maths works, in fact. I'm
sure that is just math. Yeah,
that's just numbers.
This is day 2, maths lesson 2 for Lorinda here. Yep.
Okay, so...
There's Savage Draw, GG.
Except.
Good. Oh no, it's not GG. Of course. My maths! I was too busy mocking yours. 1 mana off. I do not play enough of this deck to remember that exactly the mana needs to come back first. But still, it feels like GG anyway, as it needs to be 10 damage from the Pirate Warrior.
The fact they only made the 1 fewer treants last turn, had the extra mana, they could hero power, which means they're out of range of Leroy right now. So that's actually had a follow-on effect as well.
And set them up for this potential Savage Draw. So that, look, if I'm going to talk to them later on, whether we have an interview with them if they win or not. But I'm going to talk to them and see how sort of far forward they actually plan that. Because, at the first stage, like you mentioned straight away, that you can actually bump the Egg Napper in, and then it means you've got 1 mana spare for the instant mark. That's just logical, makes complete sense, of course. But then, the add-on effects of, okay, hero power the turn after, that means we're 2 turns away from potential Savage Draw, which with the first swing, like I said, there was 20 damage available with just hero power, which means, well, you do 20, then Savage Draw with almost any minions alive is probably going to be lethal after that. So Stan Sivka there, taking a good win for Czech Republic, going 2-0 up versus Belarus. And now we're going to see Twist play. It's going to be the Rogue versus the Hunter from Pokrovec. And I feel like this matchup is going to be pretty much decided on what this Rogue is.
Yes.
Because I don't think we've seen any miracle in the past week or so from most of the teams here. And if it's Quest Rogue, then, as always versus Quest Rogue, Hunter kind of has the invitation to just get him. You've got 4 turns to beat me, but, like to more or less set up a win condition. If you don't, Hunter can't really defend against so many 5/5s.
Yeah, Glacial Shard is a thing in that matchup. But other than that, the Hunter does just get him mostly.
Yeah, so it's going to be kind of a nod to say you get 4 or 5 turns to just go, depending on how aggressive the Hunter list is. And if you can't do it by then, I'll set up some kind of lethal. You probably just lose, because as I said, well, even if Hunters nowadays played, Freezing Trap or something like that, who cares? There's like a million 1 mana 5/5s coming at you. Freezing 1 actually probably benefits the Rogues. It gives them something to do with the spare mana that turn. So we'll see how this one plays out. But most importantly, this could be a 3-0 for Czech Republic, and they're already 2-0 in the groups. So that would work wonders for their game score, which ends up being the tiebreaker if at the end of stage 1 there are any, close or same match scores between teams.
And this is a bizarre group as well. There's 2 teams at the top going clear, so getting 3-0 when all the other teams have already been bashed out of sight, you're going to be in a fantastic position.
Pokrovec been working out. Look, he's ripped. Oh, there he is. Oh, ruined my joke. Okay. It's going to be Twist for Belarus as we go into game 3 of Belarus versus Czech Republic. Pokrovec playing for Czech Republic, and it's going to be the Quest Rogue with a Shadow Step in the opening hand, and Pokrovec Crackling Raise Them All, Kill Command, Bow. Doesn't tell us tons about the list, but Bow's definitely not a always played
Right.
in every single hunter list. A lot of hunter lists, especially the first few weeks after the expansion, weren't playing weapons at all. It was all about getting the minions on the board, using cards like Razormaw, Hyena, Houndmaster to build on those minions, and who cares about a bow, especially when you're not playing secrets anymore.
I think you need to play bow a bit more now because of mage. There's a lot of 2/3s, which bow is pretty much designed to deal with those exact cards. And so I think bow's sneaking back in. But you're right, it's definitely a card that, oddly enough, for a card that when you click on your hunter cards and start building a deck, it's like, oh, I've got bow.
Well, one of the problems is it's just a one mana more expensive War Axe, right?
Yeah.
Because you're not getting the extra charges because no one plays secrets anymore. So you pretty much just got to sort of deal with it with the lack of Glaive Zuka still in the format, which is a shame. I love that card. But look at the opening hands now for Pokrovec. It does have Kindly Grandmother, which is a fantastic card to follow up with a Crackling Razormaw.
Yeah.
Because you've almost guaranteed a target for that adapt as well.
This hand is very nice. I wouldn't be surprised, though, for them to spend a lot of time on this turn thinking what they want to do on turns 4, 5, and even 3. Because it's definitely not certain they'll play Animal Companion even on 3 here, although it's very likely. Grandmother's almost always the play here, unless...
You could just say, look, we need to do something
Right.
highly aggressive here. And honestly, if your opponent, like, what punishes you here? Like, there's going to be Hero Power Coin one mana charge.
Right.
And the 1 mana charge dies, right? Are you just okay with that? Because then it's like last turn they're going to bounce, they've lose the coin, they don't really develop anything in terms of ticking up their quest. It is a bit risky though. Grandmother is just steady.
Yeah. Yeah, you can play either or as well. You can play Hyena or Razormaw. Just if you wanted the damage, you go for Hyena and say, hey, I'm gonna roll Huffer.
Yeah.
But I think Hyena makes sense, but they'll be talking about the Razormaw in particular is
We don't want to play the Razormaw this turn, right?
it's 3 damage every turn.
Lorinda, crazy talk. You have Grandmother or Hyena. Razormaw does not exist till next turn.
Sure.
Okay?
But if you just look at the curve, that's what I'm saying. You've got to make
The
sure
curve
it gets
is
played.
Razormaw plus the 3
think
attack
Razormaw comes down on
the
5.
Grandmother. Maybe.
Because of the pick of the Animal Companion. We're going to find out. Now Razormaw doesn't come down. Because now you've got a Hyena in your hand if this sits on the board.
Looks like it. And this is... So, Sol, I think, mentioned this as well. You were talking about in the last series that Quest Rogue might not be everyone's favorite deck, but there are intricacies. If you Shadow Step, you avoid the Hyena.
Yep.
But then you kind of commit to this Gnomish...
Novice.
Novice Engineer, not Gnomish Inventor, which is the 4 mana one. The Novice Engineer, you sort of commit to, okay, I'm bouncing this, and suddenly that's 2 mana minion, and not a 1 mana one, which is a lot harder to deal with. And hello, Hyenas.
Yeah, and that fixes the curve as well. The one problem here, if they did play the Hyena, was they miss out on mana, but they're going to just be efficient.
I am surprised, to be completely honest.
I think the view is that we can start hitting you immediately, and next turn we can double Hyena in some worlds, and we're still going to have minions to kill off.
True.
And we get to play every ounce of our mana onto the board.
Do you have minions to kill off, though?
Usually.
Well, what are you killing them off against?
Or you don't care, right? If they're not killed off, you're just
going
hitting
face.
you for 5.
Yeah, it's just and this is why I don't think we'll see the trade. You can just go aggressive. You at worst, you leave a minion potentially next turn to trade, which buffs the Hyenas. At best, just keep going face. Just get him.
And if that doesn't happen, you go 1 Hyena and the Razormaw instead of double Hyena. If there's a chance to trade, you go double Hyena. If there's not, you just play the Razormaw on your 2/4 Leok and get him because there's no sap.
Yeah, I like it.
So, from Belarus's viewpoint here, they need to get on with this. They need to find a way to complete the quest quickly, and Igneous Elemental against a board of beasts is probably a decent, okay idea.
Yeah, Hunter doesn't have a way to do the cute sort of play rounds, Igneous Elemental dying. It's like Hunter's normally just damage, so there's no sort of cool tricks you can do normally as there's no freezing trap.
Yeah.
I'm not saying there isn't a freezing trap in the deck. It is very unlikely there's a freezing trap in the deck. So nothing cool that Czech can do about that. But to be honest, if my opponent played Igneous Elemental and I'm the Hunter, I'm like, great.
Yeah, we saw a player in the
play
Japan Major try to play on Igneous Elemental by not playing anything as a Hunter.
Yeah.
Come turn 8, he was facing a wall of 5/5s anyway.
Kill him! 2-3, just kill him!
Didn't work out too well.
Right, get those Hyenas on the go team.
So you're definitely playing 1 Hyena. I say definitely, nothing is definite in this game. We've already had some interesting thoughts, especially turn 3, which has turned out really well for them now, where they decided not to waste any mana.
Yeah, for me, this looks like double hyena trade into the 1/1. What is that 2/3 going to do? Like, honestly. Like, if
you don't want to kill the 2/3.
No, that's what I mean. But like, if you play the 2 hyenas, the hyenas go to 4/3s. And then,
sure.
Well, okay, if there's Igneous Elemental goes into a hyena, and then a 1 mana charge, sick, then the other hyena gets buffed. And then what does the rogue do? Like, outside of actual, like, prep vanish, there's nothing the rogue can do about this this hyena play, and this is why I like it. Put the pressure on. You have Razor Maw, which potentially knocks out, like, lethal next turn if there's Wind Fury on one of the hyenas.
Yeah, here we go. Going to put so much damage on the board.
This is so sick. And this is what we talked about right before the game even started. Rogue says to Hunter in this matchup, okay, you have about 5 turns. If you can't win in 5 turns, I win. That's pretty much what the quest says, but this is going to be very, very difficult indeed as the weird hyena checkmate comes into play of, well, 1, yeah, you can just kill and deal with. 2, you kill 1, you buff the other, so it's very, very awkward indeed.
Yeah, and I mean, that's so much damage they're looking at. 16 that they can see, plus hero power is 18, and we can see there's a Razor Maw as well.
Well, there's 15 if 1 hyena dies.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and that's with hero power as well. And that's without the Razor Maw, which is either +3 or a potential +7. So there's just a truly absurd amount of damage, and with no vanish available and no prep, means that there is no
Quest
plan.
to be completed, though.
Who cares?
No, I know, I agree. The Hunter's in a fantastic position. Just pointing out, the quest can actually be completed now. So it's looking like the hyena plan will do it, but there are charged minions. There's a completed quest option.
You can't cast it this turn, though, right? The quest has to be next turn, I think.
Yeah, you can't cast it.
Yeah,
You
right.
can just complete. So, but you can set up with that in mind.
Yeah. Because then you do have deckhand, you do have patches, but only coin. So if the quest is played next turn, that's 5 mana, then there's only coin for 1 charge minion.
Yeah, gonna need to...
And the minion's going to cost a mana, right? Oh, he's going to coin this out now. Yeah, so we'll have 2 5/5s ready to attack in next turn, but that's it unless there's a prep off the top.
This is going to be a massive amount of damage, and Sottle's not here to call in the Macaw.
I've got it, don't worry.
Goodness. You've got it.
Yeah, I mean, so I'll do this all the time.
Children.
Look, get rid of one of us, the other one will cover it, it's fine.
It's just like those 2 hyenas, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. And no Wind Fury, just +1/+1. This is kind of awkward as well because you at this point, this is a weird thing about the stealth adapt. You kind of wish you'd already attacked.
They had the choice to.
Yeah, well, that's not going to happen, is it? If you get the plus damage.
You might get the +3, of course.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like,
It is something that I think people overlook, though, quite often. Not in this particular situation, but on ladder, you see people who either go for Wind Fury or Stealth, and they forget to attack first.
Yeah, because Wind Fury means that if you get it instead of Stealth, you attack once, then Wind Fury happens, you can attack again anyway, so it works out the same.
But yeah, here they were looking for that +3, so obviously it's okay here.
Macaw! There you go.
Hate my life.
Elder Longneck. Not a terrible card, actually, here. Oh, there's no 5+ attack minions in hand. It's adapt or get the 5+. It's really nice as stealth though.
Right.
You get 5/1 stealth on 3. You know, if you're playing Druid, for example, like that is a scary minion. There is a Vanish, but no coin now. They used it last turn. Vanish was the one potentially silver lining here that could have dragged Belarus out of this hyena-infested mess.
Interesting that they didn't play to that as well. Obviously, it's easy to say now it's come off the top and we can see it, but...
Very difficult as well, because the second you don't draw a Vanish and you didn't make the play to get the quest done, you probably just lose anyway.
Sure.
If there was a prep, maybe there's more thought to it, but on the back of some hyenas, a high 5 to Czech Cloud. Pokrovac wins the game for the Czech Republic with that extremely aggressive Hunter opening there. I am proud to be a Hunter player after that game, and you know, commiserations to Belarus. It's their first match in the global games, and it was a 0-3. But it is important to state that is only match 1. It's not like the 0-3 in matches. 0-1 at the moment in the table. Still have plenty more matches to play and potentially, plenty more matches to pull up to that top 3 spot.
And we will see in a moment here that we have, lots of teams in this particular division are struggling in this group. And we see the tail of the match.
Yeah, a team that isn't struggling, though, is Czech Republic at the moment, and definitely one of the strong teams here in global games. You look at this lineup. For a start, you can just look at Sivka and Pekovac, teammates on Misfits along with George C. Very accomplished, very strong players themselves. Then you throw in Jara and Czech Cloud, 2 other strong competitors from Czech Republic as well, and the team just looks very, very scary indeed. Instead of, we see some teams where there's 1 to 2 star players, and then 1 to 2, good players, of course, but just lesser known, or they're, mainly streamers or content creators that don't play as competitively in Hearthstone. So they need, it's just not as overall, a strong team with all 4 players.
Yara has played in every single HCT prelim or playoffs so far. There's not many people who have played in all 4, and he's qualified for all 4 of those.
Exactly. We talk a lot about Sivka and Pekovac because we see them the most in tournaments, but Yara definitely no pushover. And we can check in with Pekovac now, as I believe he is here. Can you hear us?
Yes. Hey guys.
That's loud. Hello. Congratulations on that win. Very convincing overall with a 3-0 over Belarus. Were you this confident going into the matchup?
Well, I think we just tried to play our best, and because we wanted to win the first game, because if you go 3-0 in the groups, we have a pretty good chance to advance to the phase 2. So, yeah, we feel pretty comfortable and.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, with a 3-0 as well, it means your game score for potential tiebreakers is going to look absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, how far ahead were you planning in that Druid game there?
So with the turn with the Living Mana, when you actually bumped into the Eggnapper and then played Living Manas, who had the 1 mana for the Mark of the Lotus, it ended up opening the potential of the Savage Roar 2 turns later.
Yeah, it was also important to have mana for hero power to not die on Arcanite Reaper into Leroy or Mortal Strike. So it was also super important.
Yeah, that worked out just right, of course, with them you being on 10 instead of 9 was, as you say, very important.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really cool to see overall, because at first glance it was like, well, yeah, this makes sense because of Mark of the Lotus, but then, you move forward throughout the turn, so really strong display of forward planning there, and, as you mentioned, you guys are 3-0 in the group now. Are you gonna take it easy for the rest of your matches, or are you going to try and go the full works and not drop a match?
Well, I think, as I know our team, we will try our best, of course, and we are especially looking forward to the match with Ukraine team.
Yeah, that'll definitely be a great one. So congratulations again, guys. It was awesome. A great 3-0 victory. So we'll let you go and get on with the rest of your day, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you. Yeah.
Awesome to hear from those guys. Definitely Czech Cloud looking super happy. Pekovac, as always, just focused. He's probably still in the zone. Even after the match, he's just like, this is exactly what we planned out. We can see some of the highlights from this series overall, but just... to be honest, just extremely solid play from this Czech team. There was just nothing seemed like, what happened here, or why do this, why do that. Just seemed like, this makes sense. Yep, this makes sense. Yep, this makes sense. Completely solid play. And I think overall, that is why the 3-0 in groups.
And looking at it, actually, just dawned on me, they devolved in this game an Acolyte of Pain, and they won by 1 turn.
That's true.
The Pyroblast came off the top the turn that after they won, and actually they devolved an Acolyte earlier in that game.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, very interesting when you rewind back through the games and really go piece by piece, something that no doubt the teams are going to do, and I'm pretty sure the other teams have. I know Tyler yesterday, as soon as his match was done and he opened up his stream, he actually did just go over his match straight away. We see really cool play here, bumping in. On the surface, looks like, you get to play Mark of the Lotus. More importantly as well, this develops a strong board, opens up the extra mana for the hero power next turn, and then, even though it wasn't particularly needed, opened up the mana for Savage Roar the turn after as well to really seal the deal here.
Yeah, being on 10, fantastic idea. And they said in the interview this is what they did it for, as well as Arcanite Reaper +4 is another number that was key for 9. So playing around key numbers, big thing in Hearthstone, which is a game about numbers.
Difference between winning and losing. And then we see probably the steamroll game of the series, just, Pekovac pretty much having the aggressive opening, the double hyena, which Rogue simply cannot answer. And this is one of the arguments where I genuinely, a lot of, the community and people in general are just like, oh, Quest Rogue is OP, nerf, right? There are weaknesses. There are actually a good amount of weaknesses to this deck. Sometimes you do get steamrolled by it, but sometimes this happens because they actually don't really do anything in the first 4 turns of the game. Nothing impactful anyway, and really does open up those small windows to be able to, really cash in on this. And we see, the double hyena just creating that checkmate, timing of just saying, well, you kill one, the other one's going to be out of range of anything you do at all. So really cool to see there. We can check out what the group looks like now, especially after Czech winning that game.
Yeah, and look at this group. It is insane. The Philippines in 3rd place with 1 win and 2 losses because of the dominance of Ukraine and Czech Republic. Germany and Croatia will be happy to see the results because even though they're 0-2, the other results have kind of gone their way, and those 2 teams will still be with a very good chance, even possibly with 2 wins the way this group's shaping up, depending who you beat and when.
Yeah, and what's important here is you heard Prokovac and CzechCloud say, we're looking forward to the Ukraine game, and it's like they want to battle Ukraine. Both teams extremely strong, 3-0, but most importantly, the teams under them looking more and more likely there's only going to be 1 spot to fight over, and that's that 3rd place if Ukraine and Czech Republic continue to dominate this group and get ahead. So everything looking awesome. That was a very swift 3-0 for this stage, but we've got plenty more coming up for you today. So don't go anywhere, guys. We'll be right back.
We're almost there. Quiet down, everyone. This is not like any of our previous expeditions. This will be far more ambitious. We're stepping into a land of primordial wonder. Infused with astonishing elemental energies. The plant life here holds very unusual properties. So don't touch anything. And while you may be excited to see the local fauna, you might want to make sure they don't see you. Because their powers of adaptation are devastating. Make no mistake, we will be tested at every turn. But if we stay on our guard, we might just survive. Now then, are you ready? Then let's journey into Ongoro Crater.